Do you want some homework tips for kids? Parents need this. I am Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government, but I also teach about child development and education, and in this video, we are talking about homework. In this video, we're going to be talking about homework and what kind of problems we may face with children doing their homework or not doing their homework, as the case may be. And I've got some great tips for you to help your children do better at homework this year. I remember reading a book, and the first line, opening line of this book was, "Homework sucks." It was written by a teacher, and I thought, yeah, that's true. I think everybody feels that. But there was times during my years of education where I got excited about doing a particular project with homework. And then there were the times where it was like, oh, I've just got to jump through all of these hoops and get it done. And I would try to slip by and do things as quick as I could. So why is it that some children struggle with homework? In fact, why is it that almost every child at one point or another does not want to do their homework? Well, probably because there's something else they want to do, or it doesn't feel very engaging or worthwhile to them. If there was something that I really wanted to learn, something that I felt like I needed for myself, then I was going to be invested in getting the homework done. But if it was just do this worksheet page and those types of things, I feel like that's not very motivating to a person. It's just a checkoff list. And there are very few people that get motivated by seeing a checkoff list. Most people get motivated by knowing that that thing on the checkoff list is going to help them become better in some way or make some difference for them. So it is important that we get to the why with our children to help them understand why the homework matters. And talking about getting a job 10 years in the future is not a good reason why. Just so you know. You have to make sure that the why actually matters to them right now. So rationales are great teachers, and when we praise our children, hopefully we're telling them they did great at something and why it was good, so that they could repeat that again in the future. If you've subscribed to this channel already, then you know I talk a lot about praising being the most effective style of teaching of all of the 5 styles of teaching, and that we should praise our children 6 to 10 times for every 1 time that we correct them. But when we are talking about helping our children want to do homework and giving them a reason why there, we can follow some of that same formula. We can say, oh, look at this, you've got this homework to do. Wow, why is this going to help us in our life? And you could talk about the why right then when they're working on whatever project it is. And here's another thing. Did you see how I was engaging in the homework? That's a big deal. So the second tip that I have for you is to make sure that you are engaged in the homework process with your children. One of the most uninspiring things is for a child to come home from school and for a parent to say to the child, you go sit over there and do your homework while I'll just do whatever it is. And then once you're done with that, then you can go play, then you can eat your snacks, then you can whatever. And it's just part of this next little drudgery that I have to go through to get to something that I might like. Well, children all love engaging with their parents. In fact, after a whole day being gone at school, that's actually what they want more than anything, is to talk to you and engage with you. Now, oftentimes what the parents want, which destroys the ability to get the homework done with a better attitude, is they want to get all the things checked off the list too so that they can have a relaxing evening. But if they worry about checkoff lists and don't worry about the relationship, then the child's relationship to the homework actually suffers. So years ago, I wrote this book. It became an instant bestseller called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. I wrote this because my first book, which is probably the one I'm the most known for, called Parenting a House United, which teaches all of the skills and principles of self-government parenting. When I wrote that book, I assumed everybody understood roles, but then I realized because of people's questions that they were having struggles understanding what they were supposed to be to their children in the home environment. If you feel like you could be having some dysfunction, the children aren't listening to you, they're not accomplishing things at home, or wanting to participate with the family, this book could be very, very helpful, and you can find it at teachingselfgovernment.com. But in the book, on page 31, there is a diagram of a wagon wheel. This diagram of the wagon wheel represents how children learn. You can see that the middle part, the core of the wheel, is the hub, and that represents our core values, our principles, our beliefs, morals, all of those things. Then the spokes of the wheel represent everything that we might teach our children. All of those teachings are rooted in our core beliefs in some way. And then you see this rim of the wagon wheel that goes around the outside. That rim of the wheel actually holds all of the teaching into the core values, and the rim represents the relationship. So anytime you learn anything, you're actually developing a relationship, and that's why you've decided that the learning matters. Now, hopefully you're engaging in that lesson of learning because it's going to lead to something deeper, like your core values or principles or something like that. So when our children are doing their learning, we need to make sure that they get the opportunity to develop a relationship during that learning process. Now, the most natural person for them to develop a relationship with is you. And through their relationship with you and the learning process, they will also develop a good relationship with the content, especially if you're taking time to discuss it with them. So if you've subscribed to this channel already, then you know that I occasionally do videos that talk about homeschooling. And that's because some of my children went to school, those were all of my foster children, but my biological children I actually homeschooled. And so I do give some insights and understanding about homeschool. If there's one thing that I know about education, it's that the magic, the beauty of the homeschool is really in the culture that you have in your family. It's in the relationships that you develop with your children. So that's what I focused on the very most. Even if we didn't get all of the subjects discussed that day, we would take time to make sure that all of the learning happened in a way that developed relationships, which meant a lot of discussion. Discussion is invigorating and powerful. It does take some time to learn how to do it, especially if a person has not had an opportunity to have discussions that don't just point to a right answer and a wrong answer. Oftentimes at school, when they're doing discussions, they'll say, well, what's the right answer on this? And then the child searches for the right answer and only comments if they know they've got the right answer. But in an open discussion format where we're just discussing as we're learning, and wow, what about that? And I ask questions that I don't know, and we're learning together in that way, suddenly the discussion becomes the most powerful part of the learning. So if you want your children to love homework and do homework, there's going to be a key piece, and that is you are part of it. Now, I know some parent is saying, okay, I've got to turn off this video right now because I've got 9 children and there's no way for me to be engaged with all 9 of them all at the same time. True. That is the tragedy of teachers sending work home with the children. And it takes, pretty much all your hours in the day that you have with the children to get it all done with everybody, which is a little bit unfortunate. But what you're going to want to do is probably focus on one child each day, or maybe 1 or 2 children each day. And they'll know what day is theirs, or maybe if someone needs particular help with a hard thing that day, then you can help them. Every parent is a homeschooler, so make sure that you think of yourself that way when you're doing that homework with your children. You are now there to do the learning. And so you know what? Do it your way, not the school's way. When the child says, well, we're supposed to do it this way, say, listen, this is the way that is totally, you're able to do it. And I'm talking about math here a lot of the times, but you help them do it the way that you know that it's been done, the way that you've solved the problem before. You teach them from experience. Don't get hung up in doing everything the exact way that the teacher says it has to be done. If you know how to do it, trust your gut, teach them your way, and follow through. Now, I know that sounds a little bit oppositional, but that's because really the processes are only part of the learning, right? Being able to think through any process is more valuable than just being narrowly focused on one process. Of course, learning many processes is very beneficial, being able to think outside of boxes and that kind of stuff. But if a child doesn't even get the one process, but they get a different one, why wouldn't we go to the different one? That would make the more sense. So trust yourself and your background and history of learning. Now, also, when you're learning, you want to make sure that you're removing a lot of distractions. So when they're doing their homework time, if there's a set place that's like, this is my homework time, that's going to be all the better. Because if they try to sit down in front of the TV, even if the TV is not on, they're looking at it, thinking about it being on, that's possibly going to be a distraction. If they're looking at an open window where all of their friends are playing outside and they're not playing too, that could also potentially be a distraction. So remove distractions. What I would do is when they first come home from school, start with food. Let's eat, let's get the brain fed a little bit, not so heavy that all the blood goes to the belly, because then we have a hard time thinking. But if we could have a little bit of a snack and then we get into our assignments and our homework, things that we need to do in our designated spot. Maybe we have a desk, maybe we have a little lap desk where we sit on the couch and we work on that lap desk, wherever it is that has been designated ahead of time as that child's study place. And then you have an engagement moment with them where you ask them, what are you going to be working on? And so you have that conversation, they report back to you and you say, okay, great, I can't wait to see it afterward. I'm going to be working with so-and-so today. It's their day for mommy homework time. If you need anything, be sure to ask me any questions. Don't allow yourself to get too stuck. I can help you with anything. Let's get this done fast. So the more you can help them with it, the better. Honestly, the better. Just move it forward and get to a time where you can teach them something that you want. What do your children want to learn in your culture? Do they want to learn how to paint, how to do pottery? Do they want to learn a particular sport or how to do cooking? What are the things that you can be teaching them? Those are the things that you want to get to. Those beautiful relationship developing moments. So don't just worry about making the dinner and all that kind of stuff. Bring them along with you. Have them be part of it. So after they're done with the homework session of their day, that now they can engage in something that's really beautiful. This is why you don't want the homework to take too much time. Now, it is true that when children are older, they probably have a little bit more homework time that they have to put in. That's just part of the phase of learning that they're at, and they oftentimes are going to have to do quite a bit of it on their own. But it still is good to have discussion with them about their homework and to help them moderate their time that they're putting in. If they are putting all of their time into homework and not having any time for family or anything like that, then we need to try to help them balance that out so that they don't feel like they're completely trapped in that homework time. If they can set small goals, so things that are more like short-term goals for the homework, to put in consistent effort instead of waiting until the very last minute on that assignment, all the better. So one of the things you want to do is just say homework time is every day. We're going to study something from a class, read a book, something, and we're going to put in 20 minutes. And just have that be a set time of the day. Now, I will say, I know a lot of people like to do homework time in the daytime, but I'm actually okay doing homework right before dinner or even after dinner and before bed. And the reason why is because in the daytime, oftentimes that's the best time for me to do projects with my children too. If you want to do a project that involves daylight, or maybe you want to take them hiking or create something or work outside, play outside in good weather, then you definitely should give them the opportunity to do their homework at night. You might want to calculate with them how long you think that that's going to be taking. So when a child does homework, one of the best things you can do is teach them how to self-govern themselves. If they can give themselves instructions and no answers, they are going to be better at their homework. So keep that in mind as well. So this means that you'll probably want to teach them the 4 basic skills of self-government, which are to follow instructions, accept no answers and criticism, accept consequences, and disagree appropriately. I'm not going to go into the steps of those skills right now because I have other videos on this channel that teach all of those skills. In fact, you might want to go to the video called Role-Playing the 4 Basic Skills. Then you'll learn those 4 basic skills of self-government, and you'll see how you can give your child an instruction, and then they can follow through with that instruction if they learn the skill of following instructions. And homework, after all, is just an instruction.